Hi, everybody. Welcome to our premiere episode of Let's Talk Dual Universe. In the green room, we have Knoober and Pantera, Dyfydd, Mhaijik, and our special guest, JC, the president and creative director of Novaquark and Dual Universe. And we have Naerais with us as well. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
It's nice to see everyone. So, welcome to Studio G. This is where all the magic happens over here, and we got things sorted out. It's nice to be back. This is the first time we've done one of our talk shows in a while, so we're excited, really excited. We've got a big show lined up for you guys, and lots of stuff to discuss. We've got a lot of questions that we've prepared for JC. And we'll go through those questions, but you can still send questions, and Mhaijik and Naerais will have a look at these. And if we have time, we'll answer some of your questions as well. Anyway, without further ado, and there he is. Good morning, JC.
Good morning. Good morning.
All right. So, man, it's been an amazing journey. I know Knoober, myself, and our crew here have been involved with you guys since I think we got involved just after the Kickstarter, but we were here for day one of the pre-alpha, and it's been the most incredible journey that we've ever witnessed in any software development. I've been in this industry for eons, and what you guys have accomplished is more than noteworthy. I think it's for the record books for sure. And if you guys have,
and just a word, I mean, we have to congratulate the team. I have to say, I mean, we have an amazing, incredible, out of this world team. They're doing a great job. And there are no miracles. I mean, lots of things are hard to do, so they take time and so on. But we have the right guys to solve those problems one after the other, and get the game where it should be going. So that's really cool. Congrats to them.
The team is they work so hard and so closely with the player community too. It's unlike anything I've ever witnessed before, and to have this all happening, while under NDAs, I think, first of all, a really smart step, but it's given, I think it's given the development team the room they need to do the job that they've done.
Yeah, and you can see also the huge difference in the game performance and the onboarding and everything we've done in the last, let's say, the last 3 months. And that is the reason why we want to have an NDA, because the state of the game before that was not giving the right image of what we had in mind, and we knew that, and it was normal, and there was no reason, to let people actually talk about that intermediary stage. So that was the reason for the NDA, and I'm really happy we kept it the way we kept it, because now we can show the things that we really wanted to have in the game. There are some issues still, right? But I mean, it's okay.
Well, so I mean, right off the top, before we get into the questions, there's really two for me, and I'll let everybody here talk about the things that have been most notable for them. But in terms of the technology that you guys have created, you had to invent this tech in order to do what you guys are doing, in order to fulfill the vision. But first is your server technology to enable thousands, if not yet millions, of people to be able to play in the same realm, in the same universe at the same time. It has never been done before, and I think what you guys have done is just remarkable. And the other thing is the mesh server technology. So, just real quick, I mean, for anyone who's played voxel games, you know the issue is everything looks like Pantera's lunch after it sat in the fridge for a while. But
that lunch is good.
But you've solved this. The melted crayon syndrome that we had in Landmark and every other voxel game that we've ever played. You guys solved that. And if you guys haven't, if anyone here watching has not jumped into Dual Universe yet, you won't believe it. Look at the live streams, and you're going to see all the player creations are crisp and sharp. And you guys had to invent this technology to make this happen.
Yes, indeed. That was a absolutely decisive step. And before that, everything was sort of melted, and we knew we had to do something about it. So that's it's not over, by the way. There are more things coming that you hopefully will not see, but are very important for the overall performance. Which is that when the meshes are very far, we can still reduce the details without losing anything visually, but lower the load on the card, which is something we don't do yet. We know exactly what we want to do. We even have a prototype, so this is going to come soon. But so this is decisive, because if you look at a lot of fantastic buildings that have been made, if you look at them with the previous technology we had, it didn't really render very well. It was not very exciting. And now it really makes sense to build something gigantic and very impressive, because everybody will be able to see it as you intended. Some people told us that they discovered their ships for the first time. After that, they actually had a overall view of it without distortion for the first time. So yeah, that was a big step forward. And so the performance improvements on various levels, I'm sure you guys have noticed. And here again, it's not over. I mean, we have more things coming. But yeah, it's as you said, it's not only the server technology, which is by itself is already a huge part of what we do, but it's that everything is connected to that server technology. The voxel technology, for example, that we're using is not particularly new. It's well documented. It's called dual contouring, and it's nothing to do with dual inverse, but I mean that's the name it has. And that's something that a lot of people are using already, and for many years, including out of gaming, by the way. It's something that is used a lot in medical applications for rendering 3D scans and so on. Anyway, the point is that's not enough, because you have to connect that existing technology somehow to the server technology, so that when you make a modification somewhere in front of you, the guy next to you will see it. How do you do that efficiently? How do you manage that the amount of data you store is not going to go crazy on the server side, etc., etc.? And in general, everything we do gets more complicated, because we sort of, put it inside the context of this single shard server technology. And that's where, there's innovation all over the place, because nothing sort of works out of the box for us. And that's a lot of things.
Knoober, you want to ask the first questions?
Yeah, so let's look through the questions here. Should we talk about the wipe first, the upcoming wipe potential, or let's see?
Okay.
The wipe is on everyone's mind, top priority.
Yeah.
Understood. And I think I have some good news here. We have been discussing the original idea. I will tell you what happens. That we wanted to make much better looking planets, but it was not ready in time. So we actually have kept the planets as they used to be in pre-alpha, alpha, and so on. But it turns out that they are not that bad. And the reasoning we have today is that probably it's better to just keep them like that. I'm talking about the geometry, the shape of the mountains and everything, that kind of things, and the different biomes and so on. They're not that bad, and it's probably enough to just do a graphic overhaul on them. Trying to improve the texture here and there, and add maybe more vegetations here and there. And probably what we're going to do, so it's kind of confirmed, and we discussed it, it's probably what's going to happen, unless there is a reason for a wipe that could be something else. It could be something that we need to fix, and there's no other way but to wipe to fix it. I don't see anything like that coming, but I mean, it could happen. So just to be super clear, so that you people understand, it could be that there's a wipe, but it is not a planned wipe. It's something that would happen if we really have no choice. Now, the idea is more like we do this graphic revamp a little bit on the surface, probably relatively quickly. I don't want to give a date, but let's say by Christmas would be great. And then we take the time it takes to actually work on completely new planets and put them into a new system. That will be, the first time we open up for a new system. that would make sense to actually get people excited to visit it also, because there will be those new planets, those gorgeous graphics and so on. So that's more or less where we're heading for. So no wipe, that means all the things that you guys have been doing, digging these immense volumes inside mountains and so on, we would actually like to keep that. It would be a little bit sad if we said, okay, wipe, and then it comes a lot of issues. What we would do with territories, because the geography changed completely. So you might have a territory right now that is cool, and it ends up being underwater, and for some reason that's not what you want. Some people like it underwater, but I mean, you see the problem. It's endless. We could do it if that happens. I mean, we give the territory back to everybody, so there's a rush to actually go and claim whatever you can claim in the first hours, and these kind of things. It's not completely undoable. It's not the end of the world, but if we can, we're going to avoid that and just keep it the way it is. It means, but it's not a new problem in itself, but it means that when you get into the game, you're going to see the sort of the tech that we had in 2016, something like that, right? So 2018. And you might think, okay, what happens when we are in 2030? You get the first people getting into the universe. That's what they see. They see a technology that is 10 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to see how we can, keep improving things while not wiping anything. The only thing that we will not be able to wipe is the geometry, and I don't think this is going to be a problem even in 2030, because the planet is not that bad. What we could decide at some point is to say, okay, we're going to spawn new players. We're going to spawn a new arc-ship, and we're going to spawn new players somewhere else. That's a complicated decision as well. We could talk for 1 hour about that, but there are options. But this is interesting because we are in a single shard. We are the first single shard persistent, fully editable world. So we get to deal with unheard of problems that we will have to be able to find solution for. There's no easy way out saying, oh yeah, well let's do like that particular game or something that that now everybody agrees on. Most of the time we have to come up with the first answer to that problem. So that's one example of what I was talking about. So hopefully no wipe. That's the big message. Keep doing amazing things. Keep investing into your land, into what you do. We're going to do everything we can so that we don't have to go through a wipe again. That's the message.
Wow, that's news.
Just a real quick technical thing here, Gio. Can you bump JC's mic up a little bit?
I think Code said it was everybody.
I can try to get a bit closer also, I guess.
Yeah.
And then Code said everyone was a little bit quiet.
Hold on, gotta restart my volume mixer.
And then Ilo says, that's a great answer, JC. We like that answer.
Yeah, it's like, well, that's question 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, you just answered
just-
the first 5 questions. And
Yep.
So
add
another
on
question.
to that. Go ahead.
ahead.
Sorry. All right. So one of the things to kind of bump off of that is, and this is kind of my question, is we got such a rush at the beginning. Without a wipe, some people kind of get concerned that, well, now everybody's just territories are being used that are just empty and ships everywhere. So what's the plan on as far as like how long can someone stay at a game and keep their stuff and keep their territory and whatnot?
Stay out of game, you said?
Out of game, yeah.
Oh, you mean if you don't log in back and what happens to your stuff, right? You just let's say you I don't know, you have a health problem, you're out for several months and it's not your fault and there's nothing you can do, etc. So this is a big sort of feature that we are going to have to add soon. It's all there's a lot of work that has been done already, to specify what happens. It's a complicated topic because we definitely want to be able to identify players who simply don't play the game anymore. Their stuff should be recycled, because otherwise there will be ultimately, because there's a churn in any game, there will be a lot of things that are meaningless. So I agree, we have to do something about it. So I don't want to give any detail because these are things that are still discussed. But the idea is that you will have different periods during which your things will be, kept as they are, and then another period where you'll be notified that you can actually store them in sort of a virtual place, but they are going to be taken out of the world, but you still keep them. And then when you come back, you can actually go and redeploy them. And if you don't want that to happen, you can always log back in and reset the counters, etc. But I mean, at some point, if you don't give any sign of yourself for the next 6 months, your stuff will be sort of stored. You'll be able to get them back if you come back in, but your territory will be recycled and your construct will disappear. We have to do that. There's a necessity to actually be able to do that with a long time frame, and we're not talking about weeks, right? We're talking about much more substantial amount of time, and that's a very complex problem. We don't want to, if there is anything like someone who by mistake gets his construct removed, and we can somehow fix it because no one has claimed the territory. I mean, it's really, we can deal on a case-by-case basis on these hopefully very rare cases. But if you leave the game for 1 year, you don't answer any of the emails where you're asking, are you still there? Your thing's going to be recycled. And when you get back into the game, it's possible your territory has been reclaimed by somebody else. So you're going to have to find another place. You're going to have to be able to redeploy your construct on that place. That's what we're going to make sure of. As always with these kind of things, the tricky part is how do we prevent this to be gamed by people who are going to be intentionally using these mechanics to sort of duplicate constructs and things like that. So this is where it gets complicated. I'm not going to go into details, but we're going to work on a specification that does that take into account these things. And right now it's not implemented, right? So to be clear, at the moment, you can log off the game for as long as you want, come back, and everything you had will be there, unless of course it's in the PvP area, and you understand that. Of course, I'm talking about here. I'm talking about sanctuary zones, sanctuary moons, and safe zones in general. Nothing can happen there unless you agree with it. So Anyway. Not a clear answer, sorry, but the clear thing is that we are working on that, and we understand the concern, which is, by the way, another one of those singular problems that occurs only in your universe. So I don't think there's any example of something similar anywhere else. So we had also in mind, just to give you the full picture, sort of a notion of a will, where you can sort of explicitly say, well, if I don't come back for whatever reason, then my stuff go to that person. That covers the very sad option that can happen, that you actually die. That's
but it's a reality of life. Yeah,
it's a reality. I mean, it will happen, unfortunately, and
really
so
cool.
we'll actually have a way. So especially if you have high responsibilities in an org or something, that you could actually say, if I don't come, actually in an org it could be not at all because you die, but I mean you have a sort of a contract with your fellow own organization legates. Say, guys, I take this responsibility, but don't worry. For whatever reason I don't show up in the game in 1 week, it actually falls back automatically to that other person. So to make that kind of things explicit, you can actually state it. And possibly people will require it from you to be able to trust you enough to grant you with certain responsibilities, so you don't become a bottleneck for anyone. So that's the kind of things also we're thinking about. But this is more, for short-term absence. What we were talking about just before is for long-term, single-player type of disappearance. One guy just disappeared. Didn't have any will whatsoever, but I mean, it's just there, and we need to deal with it, right?
That's awesome. So another question we have on the list. We've seen the prototype pictures for pets. We've seen a lot of concept art for pets. Obviously, we know those won't be available for some time, but what are your thoughts on the types of pets that'll be available for the backers? Any special abilities like, the light or, a drone that could defend you, that kind of stuff. What's your idea on the pets?
I think the consensus, and I take that from community managers, is that the pets should be cosmetic. But it's not something we really started to work on, to be honest. Right? So it's going to be there for release because it's something we promised. So it sort of puts a constraint on what we call the release. And so this is a lot of work on the art team that right now they don't have time to do. So I don't want to say anything about that because we need to kickstart this topic inside the company and come with answers. We probably could have pets that help you, but I mean it would be just not a cosmetic thing. Not something you can just get as a reward. You would have to craft it or something, I suppose. It would be like a weapon. So that I personally nothing against that, but there will be also cosmetic pets that are just there to be around with you. Probably it's going to be robots. I would guess that we will avoid at start to have legs and things that are complicated to animate. So things that fly around is probably going to be the first thing we do. But maybe I'm speaking too much here because as I said, I have to talk with the art team and see what we can do. I know it's a very important topic for a lot of people, so
Indeed. Yep.
it's going to come for sure. I mean, it's a necessity in a game like that. Like 10 or 20 other topics of that kind.
Yeah.
So we try to do our best to cover. And right now, to be clear, the priority, and that I think will be an answer to some other questions that you have. Our priority is to make the game fun, to balance it, to fix the bugs, maybe to add a few features that we consider fundamental still, that could, giving the ability, for example, to sell ships is a very important thing. It's still not quite there. I mean, these kind of things are sort of foundational. They are going to be very impactful for the game. So this gets priority in what we develop at the moment.
Okay. Mhaijik, do you want to do a question?
Yeah. I got the softer side questions. I was curious about dogs
42.
or cats?
The
Dogs
answer
or
is
cats?
42.
Dogs or cats? Which do you prefer?
I think dogs.
Okay.
Dogs. But I don't have a dog. I don't have a cat. But I'm considering getting a dog at some point. So that's my answer. I don't know what that reveals about me. I like cats as well, but dogs are so fun, and they interact with them. I mean, that's how I see it. Again, I never had a dog, so
Oh, you've never had a dog. Oh, okay.
no.
It'll
But
be fun.
every time I see a dog, I say, "Oh, it's so cute. I'd like to be having that also." But anyway, don't have time.
So another question that's come up quite a bit is, when do you think we could see more colors of the emissive voxels?
I don't know. Not quite soon because we have to think about that in a global plan about what we're going to do with cosmetic items that you can buy. So this is not a surprise. I mean, we have in mind that we sort of monetize this kind of thing. So it's possible that these kind of things go into super low cost, but I mean something that we get into the cash up. I want to be transparent on that because we're running a business. We have put a very low.
Doggo. Gio loves
Yeah.
his corgis.
Oh, here's the dog, Corgi.
So lovely.
Oh, corgi.
That's awesome.
Wow,
Great.
they have gotten big.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have.
Okay.
Nice.
So another question.
Yeah, so that's about it. I mean, we're going to see what we put in the cash up and what we don't. But the colored emissives definitely might be one of them. We'll see.
So another question is harvesting things like the soil, the earth, rocks, sand, and trees. What kind of things would those be used for? Like if we have glass voxels at some point, I know there's some issues around that, but would that be made out of sand?
Okay. Lots of questions in one package thing. So I don't know let's talk about glass voxels. This is very complicated on the technology side, really complicated, more than what we might think about. So probably not anytime soon. We have a lot of low-hanging fruits that would be filling that need. And so frankly, don't expect transparent voxels anytime soon. I'm not saying no, because there is a lot of cool stuff we could do with that, not only for decorative purposes, but also, to make some kind of water voxel. I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff, but no, not short term. And so about the soul, you can of course collect it. As you know today, the main purpose of it is to use it to fill the gaps and sort of terraform around your outpost or your constructor, your house, this kind of things. It doesn't really serve any other purpose so far. But well, we'll see. It's supposed to be something that has not a lot of value, because you dig a lot of it, as you do any normal mining operation. So whatever the value of that thing would be, it would be extremely low, because the supply is gigantic. So it's we don't have any plan for that. For the trees, it's a different story, because as you can remove a tree right now, but you don't get anything out of it. If we make it something you can harvest, we're a little bit afraid that people are going to wipe out most of the forests, which we like very much. And I'm pretty sure it's going to happen sooner or later, right? Because there's a profit in making it. So it's not out of the question, but then we would have to implement something that we'd like to do at some point as well, which is the possibility for things to regrow. So you cut a tree, and at some point there's another tree that pops there slowly, and so it's not. I mean, it's something we know how to do, but not a priority again. So I don't see that coming anytime soon. So it's better for the moment, that you don't have any particular incentive to wipe out forests. That would be sad.
Because Knoober might do that accidentally.
So, which by the way would be quite an endeavor, because there is a lot of forest if you think about it. I mean, the time we would take that, we're talking about, I don't remember, several billions of trees just on island.
Oh wow!
So just saying.
So,
but it's nothing that will stop, dedicated player base, I'm sure. So let's be careful.
Yeah.
Now, that's one of our other questions here is, so I put down a static core, and I want to terraform and things of that nature. So is there any thought about taking things like the trees and the rocks and all, giving them as elements so we can actually make our own little forest, or things of that nature?
It's more or less the same kind of technical question about the ability to sort of recreate an asset where there used to be, or even where there was no. It's not a terribly complicated question, but again, I mean, it's not something that we feel is absolutely urgent. Yes, probably, we make something like that along the way. And it requires a little bit of development, so that you can actually start to put elements also. Not only trees. Trees are not elements. I'm maybe a bit technical here, but I mean, elements are the stuff you have on your constructs, right? The engines and so on. Trees are what we call vegetation, and they are not treated the same way. We could imagine to have trees as elements, and that you could actually deploy them on the planets, but then we need to include the possibility to deploy elements on the planet. The territorial units, which are elements on the planets, are currently handled in a very specific way. So it's hard to generalize. Anyway, lots of tech. Nothing we couldn't do in principle. Now we have to see, the priority versus other things that are more urgent.
So speaking of trees and speaking of me crashing all the time, tree collision.
Yeah. I think that's really among the list of the best ideas we have at the last minute. To say, right, okay, let's get those trees out of the picture, because what's the fun in this? The reasoning was that it would put a little bit of challenge as you navigate on the surface of the planet, so that you avoid forest, and then so you plan your trip somehow. So, well, first of all, it's not clear this is really fun, and second, most people fly anyway above. So it's not like, this was in any way really a source of super good, interesting, fun experience in the game. better remove the collisions, because that was creating a lot of frustrations, and it started to become a meme. So that's where we start to know there's something really problematic. I don't think it's going to come back for the reasons I just explained. What does it serve? What purpose does it serve? Why is it cool? Not sure there's a good answer to that. Okay, it breaks immersion a little bit. Okay, fair enough. But not that much. I mean, if you go very fast in the forest, I mean, you can imagine that you sort of slalom between all those trees.
I can do more than imagine it.
So there's of course the scene in Star Wars where you run with your speeder in the forest. I don't know. Maybe we're going to introduce some super large trees to create giant forests, where the spacing between trees are not so dramatic. So small as they are in the current forest. And then for that particular trees, we might enable collisions so that you get a sort of a game that is about, designing a speeder that is agile enough to be able to fly through this. Not clear. It's really fun, but we will see.
That would be fun. So let's talk numbers. Looking at the claim territory tiles on the Sanctuary Moon and on Alioth, and then your concurrent user account that has happened since beta. What can you tell us about that?
Well, it's looking good. The Sanctuary Moon is, if I understand, the latest report is about 18%, so almost 20% taken. Since in principle, with a few exceptions of people who in principle were granted 2 tiles, in general it's 1 tile per person, so it gives you an idea of the number of people who are playing the game. Not everybody actually puts the tiles on the moon, so the number is higher. But it gives an order of magnitude if you want. And it means that we should start to think about the new moon soon. But that's not. It's completely expected. I mean, the plan was explicitly that. What we didn't know is how fast it would fill up, and that's it. But we're still far, from the. I don't know, at what level we consider that we should have another moon, because, all tiles are fine. I mean, okay, you're not next to a market, but that's not the only reason why you want to have a tile on the moon. Actually, it's supposed to be your base where you put your stuff and security. This is going to be kept way longer if you're not in the game, as we discussed before. So I mean, this is supposed to be a home place, secure place. But some people will live all their time on the moon, and that's perfectly fine. But if you really don't like the position of your tile on the moon, the answer is probably to invest into whatever it takes to be able to claim a tile on some other planet and build your life somewhere else, and just go back to the moon when you have to store important things. And that's how it becomes, after a long time, after, let's say, several years in the game. Even so, again, it's all fine to decide to spend all your time on your tile in the moon and enjoy doing this. It's all right. So, those numbers look good. And on Alioth also, I think there's 3%, about 7,000 tiles claimed. That's very impressive. I would say,
7,000 tiles claimed on Alioth?
Yes, 7,000. How much?
Wow.
Exactly, I don't remember. Close to 8,000. And knowing that it's costly to do that, what we don't know, because we didn't look at the time I'm speaking right now, but we should look into this, is, what's the average number of tiles per player and organization on Alioth on any given planet, taking out the people who don't have any tile at all. So we look at the tile people and see what it looks. And it's very interesting. What we hope in the long term, of course, is that you start to see sort of big empires emerging. And by the way, there's a feature we need to work on for the visualization of the tiles that allows to show more clearly, who is who. Right now, it's you and the others, without an easy way to see where the frontiers are going to be emerging. So this is something we're going to address at some point. so that you can visually see where that empire, for example, is, and so on. But it gets pretty much pretty quickly quite costly to add more tiles. This is made on purpose because we don't want too much proliferation. It has to be meaningful. It has to be an investment. You really have to want that tile for a good reason. And so that's the underlying logic.
Yeah. I had a question real quick. When are we going to see animals, fish, something like that, creatures?
That's the same kind of answer that I give often is that this is really cool. We can do it, but it's very expensive to do it right. There's a lot of work on the art team.
On their team, yeah, for sure.
There's probably a lot of work, I suppose. I mean, it depends how much we care about those animals being purely decorative or having an actual existence. That means, if you see some animal, is somebody next to you going to see it as well, or is it more or less, local to your machine? These kind of things, right? So this is something we definitely want to do. I mean, it would make a lot of sense. It's really cool. It's not the easiest. It's not a low-hanging fruit for us. And I would say it would come eventually because that's something you expect. I don't know if you noticed, but we added a little bit of bird songs when you are inside the forest.
Oh yeah.
So that's
yes.
Yeah,
I love
I
it.
had to take my headset off. I was like, "Is there a bird in my house?" Like, what is that?
Yeah.
That's the cheap first step for us.
It works.
You could do
I
like
it.
frogs next to water. You could do crickets at night. There's a lot of immersion things you could do. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
So and that will be and if we want to be pushing this even further, so now we're talking about R&D taking place literally in a few years from now. You want to have a possibility to make those animals very different from one planet to the other, because from an evolutionary point of view, there's absolutely no reason why it's impossible. We'll have actually the same animals on different planets unless they've been imported by some spacefaring species like us, or that they're spacefaring themselves. Space whales.
True. Yeah.
Space whales.
But you see what I'm getting? I mean, it's also very expensive because we have to develop different animals on different planets, and as the number of planets will increase, that can become a real expensive things that will get us towards procedurally generated animals, which is a cool thing. I mean, everybody thinks about No Man's Sky, for example. They did this pretty well. So that will be something of that kind. And then, of course, I'm talking about R&D and things that I don't know when we can do that. For sure we can. For sure we would love to work on that. It's exciting, from an intellectual perspective. It's an interesting problem to solve. But again, does it make the game really better? It's not going to change fundamentally what the universe is about, so it's not something that is high on the priority list. Okay. But definitely, yes, we would love to, and we share the same interest in getting this done.
I can only imagine. Yep.
Okay, I have a question. What advice would you give to people that want to get into game development as a profession?
I don't know. I think in general, the advice I would give to people, if they can afford, they should really aim at doing things they really love, and by doing things, you become, what you aspire to do. So if you love doing games, don't spread yourself on other things. Do that and try to do a game. And become good at what you do by doing it, and then it will become obvious that you're a competent professional in the gaming field because you've done this game, etc. So that sounds probably it's not that easy, right?
But you just said just do it.
I think you become what you do. You're not. There's nothing that's gonna grant you the status of a game developer for external reasons if you're not what exactly want. So I mean, And I guess, I mean, it depends what you want to do in games. It could be art, it could be programming, it could be game design. I mean, there's a lot of things where your passion should be the drive that gets you where you want to go. And your passion will be recognized by people who want to hire you. When we hire people, we are more, we put a lot of weight in considering whether that person is passionate about what he's doing, or if it's just a job, which is fine. I mean, we need also people who are just doing things because, that's okay. But I mean, I think a lot of employers are going to look at, that spark in your eye. And if you can back it by actually showing that you have been doing that particular thing that you want to do on your free time, and that it's a real passion, then you get a higher chance to get into the industry.
So another question, in the game, we can right-click elements and there's the UI option for element skin. Can you give us kind of a brief idea of what you guys have in mind for that?
Well, we're going to introduce some ways to change the skin of the elements, and that might be part also of the cash shop things we introduce. Just to give the element, without changing anything of its features, it's just to give it a different look from the outside. So that's what it's about, right? So it's in the making. It's not finished. It's something that sort of works now already. So expect to see things coming that way at some point.
So if I wanted to convert my ship to like an old Rust bucket, if you had like a Rusty Elements thing, that would be possible.
That's exactly the idea. Yes. And more generally, we need to improve, the way you can customize the colors of things. Right now, for historical reasons, for example, you have a different material for different colors, but that should not be. You should have one material and the color as an option. Well, that's historical. So these are all things that are pretty much obvious, right? I mean, something you would expect, and we're going to work on that. I can't say when, but it's definitely on the roadmap.
I have a question that kind of goes along with that. So our avatars, are we going to get more options eventually for changing our avatar's appearance? And with that, are we eventually going to get a third-person view of our avatars?
Okay, that are two different questions. Yes, of course, we want to make the option so that you can change the avatar. So the way we think about it right now, it may change, is that you have different, general look for your avatar that is more like a warrior type, more like a diplomat type, more like a trader type, these kind of things. Even so, it's purely visual. I mean, it doesn't actually impact what your talents are, for example. And then on any one of those, let's say, archetypes, you could actually customize certain parts. That's the general idea. So that you have a little bit of evolution possibilities within a certain style that you like. And so that's what we're going to work on. And this work has not really started, so it's something we're going to have to put in motion in the coming month. But definitely, yes. There's also different outfits that are part of the things we promised to backers, so we don't forget about that. Don't worry. And that's part of this work, And we realized today everybody looks the same, and you don't see the face. You have to understand this is a cost issue. It's just it's pretty expensive to do this, and we have to make choices.
Okay. So one of the biggest questions that came up, currently we have safe areas within 500 kilometers of most planets. We have safe areas around Alioth, Mattis, and the Sanctuary Moon, and I believe Thades. As the super legate for Infinity Corp, I need to obviously do future planning on when we should be building defenses. When should obviously territorial warfare is quite a ways away. We understand that, but as far as the safe areas, what type of time frame should we start looking at building defenses and things on planets?
It's all tied to territorial warfare, indeed. So this is when we're going to introduce the final areas for safe zones. By definition, talking about territorial warfare means that at least certain planets will not anymore. So the only place that we guarantee is going to be safe, if that's what you're after, is the moons, the sanctuary moons. Sorry, not every moon. And most likely, I mean, all the area around the Ark ship will be without PvP. We are not quite, sure whether we want to make Alioth entirely safe or some part of Alioth safe, some other parts not safe. Let's say, half of it or something like that.
I think that would be a popular
I find
idea.
it interesting. Yeah, I think it's a good idea because it creates, frontier where interesting things are going to happen. When you cross that frontier, there will be people, basically camping there, and it makes for a sort of a challenge. Am I going to be able to pass that frontier? Well, these kind of things, but there are other issues, so it's not clear this is what we're going to do. Right now in the game, the big zone that you see is the safe zone. That basically gathers a bit of space between 3 planets. I'm saying again, you have to be extremely careful when you leave the safe zone. If you enter PvP, this is actually serious. You might lose your ship. Consider you're going to lose your ship, right? So, don't go there without being sure what you want to do. Maybe watch a bunch of videos or streams about what happens during PvP. And also, we lack currently a bunch of features that you would need to be able to defend yourself properly during PvP. There's a lot of things about shields, about electronic countermeasures, but all those things that you would need that are not yet in the game. So it's even more dangerous than it's supposed to be to actually just go out into the PvP era. I just want to remind that because it's extremely frustrating. You could have been working for a long time and it could kill you the pleasure you have to play in the game. So, yeah. So there's report of an issue with warp drives where you might actually be when you arrive out of warp, you could be colliding with something. I've heard about that thing. It's very weird because unless there's a bug that arrived, this has been tested. You don't collide during warp. So there's no way you could, in principle, I mean, I'm not saying it's not happening, but then it's a bug. You're not supposed to be able to collide with a giant wall at your arrival point. There is no arrival point, by the way, when you warp on a planet. So you should, in principle, be able to offset your arrival point by starting from a little bit on the side and get another angle. I don't know, now that I think about it, by the way, if anyone has ever built a warp beacon yet. That would be interesting to look at. But,
we don't have the capability yet, but hopefully soon.
Okay. So if you don't have it, probably nobody has. But anyway, so what was the other question? Sorry,
so to summarize, so the last part of it was the protective bubbles around all the other planets, the safe zone bubbles. Those will stay in place until territory warfare is added as well.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because there's no way you can actually do PvP on the planet right now because some of the things are disabled, and so yeah.
Okay.
Do you have any kind of estimate on when that will be implemented in
The territory warfare?
Yeah, and do you know about how much notice we'll have before that happens?
Okay, we'll make you aware of this. This is starting. Got it. When it's, I would have said pretty soon because that was supposed to be the first thing we do after beta. The problem is that there's a bunch of things that got in sort of in between that we know we have to do before that are sort of more important. That are going to fix things and so on. So it might get a little bit shifted from what we hope to do. I'll kind of give you a time. Okay, let's say within the next 6 months, something like that. That's a large estimate. Hopefully, it's going to be within 6 months. The interesting thing with territorial warfare is that I'm pretty sure this is going to be, how it's going to be implemented is that, as I said in previous, talks, when you claim a tile, and there are other tiles of yours around, it sort of makes that tile safe. And to unlock it and make it, a tile that you can actually attack, you would have to actually attack first the tiles around up to a certain amount, like 3 tiles or 4 tiles or something. We don't know yet, but I mean a certain amount that will sort of unlock the one. That means that if you create a large enough area of tiles, the one in the center are, de facto sort of semi-safe, because before they will be accessible from the outside, you have to basically dig a hole inside the territory, but claiming reverting the ownership of several tiles on the way. Right? So just saying that the intention is that even though some planets are going to be PvP, you might actually witness some large areas within those planets that are de facto safe. I mean, it would require an immense amount of firepower and motivation to get to those tiles, which of course would be possible. Some people will try to do it. That would be massive wars and so on. But it's not like, it's going to happen tomorrow. That's more or less, what happens in the real world with a country. There's no formal protection from aggression. It's just that it's very hard. And before you get to the capital of the country, you get a bunch of warnings. And this is the kind of idea that is behind this reasoning.
Nice.
Do we want to? Yeah, I want to get to some of the questions from the community here, but I had one more question. Is DU VR ready, or is it planning to be?
It's not ready. We've made experiments many years ago. I mean, it's not planned as well.
Okay.
It would be cool. Don't get me wrong, but first of all, it seems like it's not a big deal, but it is a big deal because you have to double the FPS basically because you run the 2 images, and you probably also need to revamp most of the UI and the way you interact. I'm not sure about that, but I mean, it's not obvious at all that you could translate the mouse and keyboard experience to a VR without having a lot of development to do. And the bottom line is that there's not a huge market for VR as I speak. Maybe it's going to change. I hope it's going to change, but because of that observation, we cannot devote all those. Yeah, but the resources are significant. So I don't see it coming in anytime soon. But let's say that if VR becomes a big thing, we certainly are going to jump on that wagon. And at the origin, and that connects, by the way, to another question you had, and I didn't answer. At the origin, the choice of making it first person was sort of explicitly because it's meant to be played in VR at some point, because this is, the Oasis, the Metaverse, whatever. So you're going to be, embodied inside a virtual reality world, etc. So does it mean we're not going to have a third person view at some point? That was the other question. Here again, I mean, it seems like an easy thing, to do, but it requires a lot of work. So that's why we didn't do it yet.
Okay.
Mostly about collisions with the environment and not having your external camera being able to, go inside things that it's not supposed to. I mean, well, nothing insurmountable, but it's in big productions, in big game companies, this is typically a pretty large team that is in charge of that. It's called the 3C, and it's a big topic. We don't have a large team to dedicate to anything like that right now. So,
which is another reason it's so remarkable what you guys have accomplished.
Yeah, I think the passion that I mentioned before, I mean, is at the heart of everyone in the team. We love what we do, and that's how you accomplish things. It's a good recipe to try to do things that are outstanding. So
that's great. We got some questions from the audience, from the community here. Mhaijik, you want to pick and what you want to field first?
Oh my. Okay, a big question that's come through from the audience today is about Lua and IP. when will Lua Edition have IP protection?
It's coming. So the specification has been done, and it's more part for us of the overall task of making selling constructs a thing. It's not only that. Lua is one part of the problem. The other problem is that you can easily copy paste voxels from a ship you bought and sort of make a copy of it without having the rights to do so. So that's going to be handled. There's the practical problem of selling your ship. You want to put a dispenser with a blueprint, but yeah, you need a blueprint that has a one run only, something that doesn't exist yet in the game, because you don't want to give a full blueprint to anyone, or it will be super expensive, right? You need to be able also, from the client's perspective, you need to be able to, when you buy that, you want to see the batch of what you're going to get, because otherwise you have to trust. Right now you see the price, but you don't know exactly what you're going to get. And so obviously this will be abused, and because there is no trust, it will not be used at all. So this is part of the global thing, so that we transition to a state where basically people can advertise their construct, put a dispenser with a price and a one-time blueprint and all the ingredients to run it, and you can just buy the ship like that. That would be fantastic, because suddenly you get an industry of selling construct that can start. And that includes indeed making sure Lua is protected. Right now, the original idea was to obfuscate it, but actually we don't necessarily need that. The only thing we need is that if you're not the creator of the construct, you're not allowed to open the Lua editor. That's it, and that's enough.
Easy.
And that's an easy move for us. And
I like that.
we need to think how we can use a little bit of RDMS on that, so that if you want to have people collaborate, you can actually get that done. So this is part of the things we're going to solve, and that's enough. And that's going to be enough. You can expose some parameters through the Lua parameters, and nobody has to actually get inside your code. So this is coming. It's a very important addition, because I believe that the construct trading is going to have a profound impact on the game. The way I've said that many times, because the way I see it is that most people will not build their ships. I mean, they will build a ship at the beginning to get the hang of it, have a bit of fun with that, but at some point they will just buy a ship that is probably so good that they don't even know how to do it themselves, and then they will customize it. And that's the key. You buy it and you customize. Customizing is easy. You add things. You make it your own somehow. And for that to happen, you need to be able to buy ships. So the ship shops that we have put are just a sort of a placeholder, just to allow people to get a ship, to bypass that if they don't care, if they just want to go in space, they can do that. But that's not supposed to even stay, I would say. Probably at some point we just take them out, because there's enough shops managed by players selling ships that are way better than what we've put there ourselves. So that's a very important step coming.
That's great. Mhaijik, there was a question from Metallical that caught my eye earlier. Do you have that?
I don't have them labeled by who asked you.
Okay.
Well, I think I know the one he's referring to. It was about putting in, I guess, what you would call PvE elements to the game. Like quests or things to explore,
Missions.
things like that. Missions, yeah.
Okay, I would say these missions and PvE are sort of different things. PvE is a form of mission, but missions is more than just PvE. Okay, about PvE first, the fact that you can shoot at things basically, and they are not players. This is something that will come at least through tutorials, and maybe we'll make those tutorials. You can do them several times with a limit per day or something. So you can get into a tutorial. It creates a sort of a setup for you, and you go and shoot those things that shoot at you. And if you survive that, then you get a reward. That's something for sure we're going to do. I don't think it's super exciting, but it's a good way to get to know PvP, and that's more tutorial in my view than anything that would be cool that you enjoy doing regularly. Still, it would be a way to make a bit of money that is not about mining. So that's going in the right direction.
That's good.
Now the big thing, and this is also something very important that is pretty high on the priority, is the player-driven mission system. So the idea is that any player or organization can actually create a sort of a mission, think of it as a quest, that states something that it needs to be done and publish that publicly or within the org if they want to make it org-only thing. And if they publish it, that means that on the other side, any player can actually look at what is available in terms of mission and pick what he wants. The key thing is here, you need to be able to sort those missions based on how far they are, maybe how difficult they are, based on some criteria to evaluate that. There is some way, we need to have a way to be able to sort of give a feedback about past missions so that we have a sense of, is this mission issuer trustable or not? Because the first iteration of that mission system will be purely declarative. You say what you need. I need that. I need. I'm out of fuel. I need help. I need something to be transported. I need some particular rare thing that I don't find on the market. These kind of things, but it will be purely declarative. So it's a declaration of a need, and then players will have to interact and to build trust so that they can actually do this. The next step, which is going to take way more time to develop, is to make this, at least part of those missions, formally enforced by the game. So if I want something to be delivered, I will designate a particular container, and whenever somebody is going to put this thing inside the container, the games detects that and say the mission is completed. You get the reward that was sort of escrowed somehow before, so you're sure you're going to get your money. These kind of things takes more time to develop, but that's the direction we want to go.
That's going to be exciting.
Right now we're going to make it completely open. It's like you can already do that today. I mean, you go on a forum and you just write, I need some help with what happens, and chat with people. We just make it more integrated in the game. We make sure so that some missions sort of pop for you, so that somebody who is in the game doesn't know what to do. At some point, suggestion, and things like that. So this is going to happen within the game, but the game is not going to support any formal enforcement of that. That's at the same time, it's a bit something we're worried about, because it's obvious how we can abuse that. So it's a form of PvP at some point. I mean, you have to be careful who is calling for help, and if it's calling for SOS with a huge reward announced within a PvP area, use your judgment about that kind of offer. That would be. I mean, that's the spirit in which we want to do things. We don't necessarily want to babysit every player in the sense that it's part of the game, to be careful and to be thoughtful about what you do.
Dangerous activities like bounty hunting,
Sure. I've seen that. Yeah. So this could be expressed. That would be expressible in that system. I want to put a bounty on that guy.
That would be neat. I see it integrating into the design of the game at some point. I really do.
And so it's a bit long, but there's another part to another kind of answer to that. We're going to continue to do events in game and to organize interesting things to find within the game, puzzles, big enigmas where you have to think about what does it mean, and there's some big race going on at the moment in the game to understand something. So we're going to generalize that, make more of those, and work more on the lore, generally speaking, so that for someone who just want to go around in the world and try to figure out what's going on, learn more about what's the story basically, that would be possible. So that adds up to the missions, to the tutorials where you can learn to do PvP. That will actually add more of a flavor of I would say the traditional quest-driven MMO, but it will never be like those quest-driven MMOs, because we are in a single shard. things are real. You cannot just have magicians that tell you to go get some mushrooms in the forest, and we cannot actually also do the kind of high quality quest that you find in, I don't know, The Witcher or something like that. Well, first of all, because that's extremely costly to do, and it's very hard to do well. That's a challenge in itself. And also, you are part of a world where everything you do is available to everyone. So it's just impossible to do it in a traditional way. You're not in an instance, right? So we have to reinvent that, and as often it goes through the players by a system that allows them to emerge, something that you would find in a traditional game that we would find otherwise made by the game designers themselves. So here we are about giving the tools so that this can emerge within the game directly by the players.
We're running low on time. I know JC's got to get back to work. Mhaijik, was there a burning question needed to be asked? Because I have one.
Okay, go ahead.
Too, but go for it, Gio.
Okay. So I just wanted to say, JC, Knoober and I have been in the business world for a very long time as entrepreneurs, and you are unique among presidents, CEOs. You seem to have a passion. You get inspiration from someplace that most people we see in business and game development and other industries just don't have. And where do you draw your inspirations? What drives you?
I'm a gamer myself, so I like to play games. I've played a lot of games, and I immediately start to think, how I would like them to be. And so at some point, because I'm also someone who knows about technologies and things, I thought about actually trying to do it, and that's the origin. Otherwise, I'm a fan of science fiction. I'm a bit of a nerd. My pastime is reading about quantum field theory and those kind of nerdy stuff. I'm not very different, I think, from the players themselves, and so that's perhaps a difference with maybe more business-oriented executives that are looking at big numbers and things. I do that also, of course. I'm running a business, and I'm perfectly aware of all the constraints that will actually make it survive in the long term, which is a condition for everything else to happen. So I have this awareness, and I care a lot about that. But the origin, the impulse, comes from something that is very close to the players, I think. Because I'm one of you guys. I want to play that game as well. That's very simple, in fact.
That's great.
That's actually a great segue into my question. Last question. Besides DU, what's your favorite game right now?
Oh, that's dangerous to answer, because there's this. Well,
or I guess what are you playing right now?
Right now, I'm going to be honest with you. I play Doom Eternal, and I'm a big fan of Doom because I love this game.
Yeah,
it has nothing to do with Dual Universe, so it's just I like the pace of it. I like how incredibly well the game design has been done, so balanced and so on. But I play a lot of games that are, in general, I'm interested in games that are going to immerse you into an experience where you can forget that it's not real, and that you can actually leave a character role play somehow and explore things. I like smart puzzle games that Talos Principle I really liked, these kind of things. I like RPGs. I like a lot of things. Maybe I should say what kind of games I don't necessarily like. I'm not a big platformer. I think I'm not, in general, very much interested in games that are not in 3 dimensions, emerging inside a sort of virtual reality. And that's where, you will connect, obviously, with the universe, is to try to create the ultimate virtual experience where actually nothing is fake, because you always have that moment where in a game you get to that door, try to open it, and sorry, it's fake. There's nothing behind that door at all. You know that it's okay. You can continue playing, and we know how to forget about that detail. But the point is, I think it's time that we have a world that is not fake, right? Everything is sort of real. What does it mean to be real? It's an interesting philosophical question. But at some point, when you care about things, where the universe has a sort of a persistence, that things follow some rules that are not random, that really smells like reality, in a sense that you can start to make plans and you can project yourself about things that's going to happen, and the thing runs whether you're there or not. This resembles a lot, sort of a definition of reality. Reality is what is still there when you stop believing it. I think it was from Philip K. Dick, if I remember well, or if I get that quote correct. But it's very true. I mean, and so that's how I got interested in gaming. I started playing games as a child, like everybody, with all sorts of Tetris games and so on, and I lost interest. And I came back and I got interested again in gaming when 3D immersion arrived. So at the time of Quake and Doom and things like that. So you get the story here.
Doom Eternal. That's awesome.
Yeah, well, okay. It's
cool.
really cool. I like it.
Yeah, it's a good game. I'm playing it now too. It's nice.
In Nightmare, please. In Nightmare.
I'm not ready for that yet.
Oh boy.
Well, everybody,
I can't imagine.
thank you so much for tuning in. JC, thank you for your time. And this will be a continuing series, and we hope to have more guests from Novaquark on. And as we'll also be having guests from the community as well, other streamers and people that have really done some big things in the game, and there are quite a few. So we're honored to have you as our very first guest, JC.
Yeah,
Thank you for having me. Thank you, and see you soon in your universe, as I say. And I hope you keep having fun, and we're going to be able to solve all the things that are missing, and stay close to the community, which is so important for us. Thank you.
Thank you. And everybody, we're going to roll the trailer for the beta, and with that, we'll see you in game. Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
That was good.